Hi again, here we are to talk about our To-Do app. And right now the To-Do app is mostly done. It needs a lot of features to really make it interesting, but the core functionality is there. You can create new to-dos and save them, and then they'll persist when you reopen the app. A question came up about adding a cell, let's say, or, tapping at the bottom of the list to add a new item. And there's a couple ways we can do that. I'm going to do it in a simple way here. Let me test the app really quick. So, imagine like we clicked on the cell here, and then it would add a new item for us, right? And so we can do that in a couple of ways. And then also a question came up about using an alert box to add a new item. So I'm going to kind of combine those together. Right now, you can also click the button here to add one on that view. Right? Let me delete that. I made one with like an empty one, right? So anyway, so let's do that. So what if you wanted to add a button at the bottom of the table view? There's a couple ways you could go about that. I think the easiest way is to use sections. So every table view can have rows, and all the groups of rows can be in sections, right? So essentially what we would need here is we'd need a table view with two sections. One section is what we have here with the to-dos, right? And then the second section is going to be just one cell that has a button that lets us add a new to-do item, right? Okay. So why don't we add that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Storyboard here, and right now I have a single table view cell. And what I want to do is I want to grab another table view cell out of the object library here. So I'll grab this one and I'll put it here. Okay. And maybe I'll make this one a little bit taller, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a button and drag the button into this cell. And I want the button to fill the entire cell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the constraints here, and I'm going to just type in 0 and 0 and 0. Let me go back here, and 0, right? And then I'll add 4 constraints, and then you can see that it gives me all these orange bars because the actual size doesn't match the size that I've tried to set, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to this little triangle here and say update frames. So now my button expands to fill the entire space. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I want to go up here and go to the level, because when I'm clicking on the button, like when I'm here, I'm clicking on the button. And what I want to do is I want to go up to the cell, that's the container, and then this is the actual table view cell here, right? So I want to go to the table view cell for the second cell. And you'll be able to tell because on the list here, it'll say table view cell, right? And where it says identifier here, what I'm going to call it, this is I'm going to call it, how about add new cell? How about that, right? So I'll give this guy an identifier. And the first cell that we're using to display the table view cells, it has the identifier cell. Right, so it's just cell, right? And then this one, when I click on it, I got to make sure I'm clicking on the cell, right? It says add new cell, okay? So what we can do with this is looking at our view controller, right? Looking at the view controller here, what we can do is in cell for row at index path, we can look at the section number for the index path, right? And then choose which identifier we want to use here, okay? And I actually copied that identifier to the clipboard, so I'll just paste it here for now. So these are the two identifiers we have. We have add new cell or cell, okay? So we could use either one of those right here, okay? So before we do that though, we need to add another section, okay? So I'm going to go up to the data source method here. And right now the data source tells us the number of rows in a section. So right now we only have one section, and that section has the number of rows equal to the to-do count, okay? And the sections are numbered just like the rows. They're 0, 1, 2, 3. So the first section is section 0, right? And the second section is section 1. So what I'll do is I'll say, if index path, or actually section in this one, section right here, right? So if section equals 1, right? In that case, then what I want to do is I want to return one cell. And then otherwise, we're going to return the shared instance count, or to-do manager count, okay? So this is going to be the number of to-dos. So if it's section 1, one cell, and if it's not section 1, then it's going to be multiple cells, right? Okay? So we got that. So now over here, when we get the index path is an object that has two properties. It's got section number and row. And we're using the row here to find the cell, or the to-do that we want to match up with the cell, but we can also use the section now to determine which type of cell we display. So what I'll do is I'll say, I'll do it this way. Let's do this. Let's say, hey, if index path dot section. So if the section is section 1, right? That's the last section with only one cell in it, right? Then what we want to do is we want to say let cell equal Tableview DQ reusable cell with identifier. And in this case, we'll use the Add New Cell identifier, right? Except we got to put that in a string here, right? Okay, so that's our cell. And then we can say, actually I'm going to, since this is an optional, I'm going to put the exclamation point there because we know we have that cell, right? So if we have that cell, then, it actually doesn't need to be configured in any way, so we can just say return the cell. And as a note, when you call return, that ends the function. So essentially, like if we're in section 1 and we do this, and then we do this line of code here, then that ends our function and the code down here is not executed. If it's not section 1, for example, it's section 0, then we'll skip over this whole block and we'll do everything down here and then return this cell, which is configured like it was before, okay? So there we go, right? So that's working pretty good. Maybe, right? We'll test it in a moment. So there's probably a couple other things we need to take care of. One of the things is did select row at index path, right? So we might want to make sure that the new add to do cell can't be selected. So we might want to do that here, right? And the other thing is at the bottom here, when we get to can edit row at index path, like we don't want anybody to be able to delete the add new cell button, right? Because they could swipe left on it and delete it, right? So what we want to do is we want to say, hey, if index path dot section equals 1, then return false, right? Because that cell cannot be edited, right? Otherwise, the other cells we return true and they can be edited, okay? Right? Let's give that a try. We might want to edit this thing here too. I think maybe that'll be okay for now. Let's see. Let's give it a test, right? So we'll test it. It builds. Oh, it succeeded. That's always a good sign. And there's our app there. Hey, I'm not getting my cell at the bottom there for some reason. Let's see, why is that not working? Let's take a quick look at our storyboard here. So I got this guy, he's got his button. He's got the name. Let's go check did I do number of sections is 2. Oh yeah, I forgot. We got to do one other thing. There's a method here called number of sections in Tableview. Okay, So that one's actually doesn't begin table view. So we have to just say number of sections in table view. Just start typing number, and if you're a table view data source, this method will show up. Okay? So it says number of sections in table view. We're going to return an integer with the number of sections, and our table view now has 2 sections. Okay? So we need to have that, right, to tell the data source that we have 2 sections. So we'll test it one more time. Oh, and there we go. So now here's our first section here, and then here's the second section with the button. And if I swipe left, I can't delete that one, but these guys can be deleted, right? So that's working pretty good. So now we just need to do something where we can activate the button. You can see I can tap on the button, and it registers that I'm tapping on it, but now we need something to happen when you do that, right? And we'll handle that in the next video, right? But anyway, here's how you could add another section to your table view, okay? Thanks for watching.